Well, good evening and welcome to Space Oddities. Thank you for joining us on this Monday night. If this is your first time watching Space Oddities, thank you, and we hope you will stay and subscribe to our channel. As you regulars will know, we have our normal motley crew of panelists, but I'm delighted to welcome to Space Oddities this evening Mel Quinn, who is the Director of Spaceport Cornwall. So good evening, Mel, and thank you so much for being here. And we're going to get around to asking you some questions because we're all intensely interested in the British space industry. And we originally started out on Astro Radio, which was a global internet radio channel for astronomy. And Daz and I did a 2-part series on the whole of the British space industry, which was enormous fun to put together. So I'm hoping that you might be able to fill in some of the gaps about things we might not know. So thank you so much for being here. And apart from Mel, we've got the normal rabble. Good evening, Michael. Good evening, Roger. Good evening, Laz. I'm afraid there'll be no viewers gallery tonight because Rachel is very tired, and she won't be joining us tonight. She's had a few family problems, so I'm afraid no gallery tonight. We will, of course, hold your images over till next week. And thank you so much, viewers, as always, for sending your images in because we love looking at them. And Mel, it may interest you to know the standard that we have in our viewers gallery. A lot of the photos, you would be hard pressed to distinguish them from ones taken by enormous telescopes, such as the skill of our amateur astrophotographers. The images that we have sent in are amazing, aren't you guys? They really are.
Yeah.
So, one thing that I would like to say before we move on is that we let you choose the design for the Space Oddities summer T-shirt last week. Just to let you know, we are making progress with that. We think we found a supplier, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can with prices and details of how to get hold of our limited edition T-shirts. We have to say limited edition because if we say limited edition, we can put a $5 on the price. So that's a trick here on Space Oddities. We'd also, of course, like to thank all of you who bought us coffees last week. It all goes into the coffers and helps us do the things that we want to here on Space Oddities. So thank you. Thank you so much for that. We are also joined this evening by Lou, all the way from America. And he's having technical problems at the moment, but he will be rejoining us shortly. He's had to log out at the moment. Well, we hope you're all well, viewers, and enjoying yourself in this lovely spring weather you're having in the UK. I gather it's rather warm over there. So I think that was just about it. I can't think of anything else that needs to be said at the moment. You're all very welcome, of course. If you have any questions for Mel, please do put them in the live chat window, and we will ask them on your behalf. And if somebody could keep an eye on that, then I'd be very grateful. Yes, Daz, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just saying, Blue's probably having lots of problems due to solar flares from that sun behind Roger.
That's probably what it is. Yeah,
it's been very active the last couple of weeks. So we'll blame Roger. Blame Roger.
We've got him back. Welcome back, Lou. We've frightened you from that. Okay. Right, well, Mel, as I said, you're very welcome here on Space Oddities. Thank you for joining us. The first question I'd like to ask you is how did you end up being Director of Spaceport Cornwall? Because is space exploration something you were interested in, or was it sort of a more career move?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And I will apologize in advance. We've got a house of kids and dogs and other critters running around. So if it gets noisy, that's why. But yeah, no, it's not, I guess, a normal story. I grew up in the middle of nowhere in Canada. And I was actually more into aviation and airplanes. That was what I wanted to do. My dad flew airplanes and fought forest fires using water bombers. And that was kind of my ambition, was to go down that road. But saying that, I was so lucky where I lived in that because it was so rural and remote. The night sky was just incredible, but also the northern lights. I grew up just, most nights through the winter, just having northern lights. And I realized how special that was, but it definitely inspired me. And at one point when I was probably about 15, 16, I remember saying to a teacher I wanted to go into astronomy, and And they just looked at me kind of blankly and said, well, there's no careers in that where you are. And that's, full circle, here I am now. But it took me probably a lot longer than it should have if that teacher said, oh, that's interesting. Why don't we have a look into what's out there? And that's always stuck with me and definitely feeds through to the outreach that I do with young people. So long story short, I ended up actually into economics. I moved to the UK to study, to do my master's here, and I focused on aerospace marketplaces around the world, how the technologies could help economies grow, to create jobs, R&D research, and really advance humanity through new technologies using airspace and aviation, and not so much space. And I was busy. I was brought down to Cornwall as a consultant to help them develop the airport when the council bought it from the MOD. And then Spaceport landed in 2014, and I was initially brought in just to look at the feasibility of using the site, and who as a business would use it. It was commercial, right from that outset. It was, we want people to come and use this. Who's out there in the marketplace? What do we need to do? How much money do we need? What are the regulations? So funnily enough, I landed in a job that brought my two worlds together, thinking of, the launch system that we had with Virgin Orbit being an airplane, which I love, plus then the space side of it and all the satellites. So that's how I got here.
Right. And it must have been quite a daunting challenge for you because, with the way the British space industry has been going over the last few years, with this sort of rapid expansion and a huge increase in government investment, has it been? I'm sure it's been a most rewarding experience for you, but you must have been quite worried at some point about where it was going.
It's been challenging because since the project started, we've had Brexit, we've had a number of different ministers, definitely, but also prime ministers. We've had a pandemic in it. So as much as the government has always been quite supportive of space, it's the amount of support has changed and fluctuated, and programs have changed, and obviously commercial businesses have come and gone in the industry. So again, going back to my economics, I've leaned on that quite heavily in kind of looking at where the market might go, and how we can really enable the site that we have to meet those future needs as well as what we have at the minute.
Right. Okay. And Daz, I think you wanted to ask Melissa something related to that, didn't you?
Yeah, I think basically Melissa's answered it, not getting political or anything like that. It's just unfortunate that the last 3 or 4 years have been a bit of a with Brexit, with COVID and things like that. It really has had a knock-on effect to the space industry and, of course, to everything, really. With the lockdowns and that. But I would like to take this opportunity to give you a big pat on the back, Melissa. You've done really well.
Awesome.
Especially since that is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
But
and what
would just
as well, just want to say thank you to Mel for putting Spaceport Cornwall on the map and showing how amazing
exactly, yeah. But putting Nuki on the map, because I didn't know it had an airport. I didn't know Nuki had an airport, and let alone to have such a big runway. But it's just sort of like, this is a bit of a personal question. Coming from Canada and ending up in Cornwall, have you actually been tempted to try Cornwall's salute to astronomy and tried Stargazer's pie?
I have had it. It's not my cup of tea, but I've lived in this amazing county for 13 years now. My girls are from here, so I really get into. It's a unique place, to say the least, and you kind of have to live and breathe it if you're here, especially in the winter when all the crowds go home and it becomes pretty bleak. And I find it just so special, and it's definitely given myself but my team that kind of push to constantly go and meet those challenges, because we believe in this county, and its uniqueness, and that launch in space is just the next chapter to what has been a really innovative history of the steam engine and the mining techniques and this kind of pioneering spirit that we have down here. So I have had the pie. It's not my thing, but I do love a bit of the Cornish culture, definitely.
Last time
and just to explain to people from across the pond, Stargazer's pie is a pie with a crust, but all the pilchers' heads are placed on the top, so they're looking up towards the sky, and so they're called Stargazer pie. Of course, you've Cornwall, as you just said, has got a rich heritage, but also in space, because you've got Goonhilly just down the road, and that, of course, is famous for it was the first transatlantic television signal from Telstar, which is a British satellite. And also it was used for the Apollo, and just recently for Artemis. And I think it was also used for Axiom last night. So yes, that's just down the road.
Isn't the anniversary?
Sorry, Mike.
Isn't the anniversary of Telstar coming up? Is it in the next couple of months? The 60th anniversary.
I suppose it would be. Yeah.
They're good, really good friends. Ian Jones is a close personal friend of mine, and I started out down here just as he bought Goonhilly from BT, and so I feel like we've been through a lot of this together. And it's so incredible to see what Goonhilly are achieving now, and they've just bought 2 sites globally. You know, they're expanding. They've got some amazing contracts, and it's such a thrill to watch them develop. And they actually provided our mobile tracking system for the launch. And, you know, they've always been really close partners of ours and huge supporters, because they are the original, you know, site. And they've opened up a lot of doors for us, as well as Ian just being an incredibly intelligent human. He's been a great mentor for me as well. So yes, a huge nod to Goonhilly, and we love them down there.
Going back to food, Mel. What about a Cornish cream tea?
Yeah, don't talk about the Devon side. We got to talk about the Cornish side. Yeah, I was slightly disappointed because I was so lucky to be invited to a coronation garden party at Buckingham Palace a couple of years ago.
Oh, really?
But the biggest disappointment is they had a cream tea and they did it the Devon way. And I was like, he was the Duchy of Cornwall. How can you do it that way?
What on earth is going on? That's treason.
Yeah.
Can I just ask as well, going back to the spaceport, you opened your Space Systems Operations Facility a couple of weeks ago. Can you talk about that and maybe some of the companies that might be using it?
Yeah, so we have 2 facilities that we built for Spaceport. The first one was our integration facility, and that's where we had basically the payload processing facility for the launch. So the satellites came in one end, went into the clean room to be put in the ferrying of the rocket. And then the second phase of that is our operations facility, which, as you said, was just opened a couple weeks ago. And that has a few smaller clean rooms, lab space, hot desking, workspace. And for that's really just where I want the hub of activity to be on the site. That's where I want people to come together, lots of different kinds of businesses, because that's where the magic happens, is, you know, those type of physical places for people to come together and network and talk to one another about what they're doing. So we have a great kind of diverse first intake into that facility. We have actually Avanti Communications are expanding into it. They're going to keep their site at Goonhilly, but also expand into us. We have a really amazing woman called Heidi and her company called Space Skills Alliance, so building the skills pipeline that we need to kind of meet those gaps that are coming our way if they're not already here. We also have the University of Exeter looking at some of our environmental intelligence and space research. We have Exobotics. We have who else have we actually? I'm trying to not name people we haven't announced yet, which is quite difficult to do.
So nobody's watching.
Space Engine Systems.
Space Engine Systems, yeah. So the Canadian company that are moving in the next couple of weeks. So you'll see a bit more of announcements about exactly what that is. They're coming along. Gosh, I'm missing somebody big, and now it's been a bit of a mad couple days, but yeah, there's 10 businesses moving in over the next week. and
Wow.
we're really excited about that.
And just on the back of that, really, is there any access for public? Is there any public areas that can be visited? Maybe anything like that?
Yeah, definitely will be. This is the last week we've had school tours. Since the launch, we've had almost 2 tours a day of schools. So we've really been focusing on the young people. We've hosted a few community events. But until the businesses get in and we get that up and running, the main collaboration space will be open. People can come and say hello and have a nice coffee and spend a bit of time seeing who's there. So that will be definitely on the cards.
Right,
Okay.
Melissa, can you
from,
talk a little about NASA partnerships or what's in the future for collaborating with NASA?
We don't have anything specific, but we are definitely speaking to them about a few different things that we haven't really publicly talked about. We're obviously supporting what the work that Kuna Hilly are doing, as mentioned with Artemis, for instance. We're also really we'll see what happens with Virgin Orbit, but we're working on that responsive launch capability for the US government, including NASA in the future. Most of our focus is looking at future programs with ESA, and who then obviously go on to support NASA too.
I've got another one if I may. Related to Virgin Orbit, Virgin Galactic. What about bringing the Virgin Galactic system over here to take off from Cornwall?
Funnily enough, that was the original conversations way back in 2014, because Virgin Orbit spun out of Virgin Galactic.
Yeah.
So the original conversations with UK space agents were actually how can we provide a capability for Virgin Galactic, but quite quickly we realized, no, let's focus on satellite launch and the regulations we need for that first in the UK before we start thinking about humans.
I was just thinking about customers in the UK, that might be interested in flying out of Cornwall rather than going over to the States to fly with them over there.
Yeah, and I think never say never. I think the UK, we still need to get the satellite launch, right? But we're an airport. We're used to having paying customers coming through on airplanes, and I think the way that technology is going, that will become more frequent in the coming decades for people to go on space flight as well. So we're really interested in human space flight as a kind of more the research, the academic side of it initially. But we'll see. Obviously, we've got a great relationship with Virgin.
It is still a commercial airport, isn't it? The UK.
Yes, and it's busy. It's really busy. It was the fastest growing regional airport before COVID. And that's the beauty of what we're trying to do. We want to integrate launch into that. We think it's a great model because it's not putting all our eggs in the launch basket. And we showed we could do that. If I lost you, my computer's gone on. There you go. So yeah, for us, it's just showing that model can work with integrated space activities at a civilian airport.
Okay. I've got a question here from Steve. Hello, Steve. How are you? Steve wants to know, babysitters, would you want to go into space yourself, Melissa? And if so, where in particular?
Babysitters, yes. I of course, I would love to. 100%. For me, I would have to have a reason to do so. I would have to be up there for a specific reason. I'm, quite passionate about the environmental impact of launch and how we can decrease that. So I would like to see a reason for me to go there. But I would probably just, I'm not massively into wanting to go to Mars or anything like that. I think for me, just seeing, something like that behind me, seeing Earth from out there would just be, it's probably one of the biggest dreams that most humans could have. So I think it would be just seeing that.
Yeah. Another question from Chris. What is the timeline for Kernosat?
Oh, so Kernosat. So Kerno is the Cornish word for Cornwall. Cornwall has its own language. So that's where that comes from. This was an interesting idea I had actually in the first lockdown, which was how do we connect space to a local community and use space to benefit or to maybe help solve a local issue. And we suddenly got funded to do it. And
Wow.
it's a program where we are designing, building. We were meant to be launching, tracking at Goonhilly, and using that data through our school outreach program, all in Cornwall. And the purpose of KernelSat 1 is to monitor the coastal health of the coast of Cornwall. Lots of different projects within that. And so KernelSat 1, we actually are almost complete build on it, and it will go into testing later this summer. And obviously the timeline originally was to go up on the second launch with Virgin Orbit. And we're just obviously waiting, as everybody else is, to kind of see what happens out of that. And if we don't see Virgin Orbit kind of rise from the ashes, then we'll be looking at hopefully launching. I'd like for it to launch in the UK. I really do. The whole kind of vision behind it was launching in the UK, or at least Cornwall. So it will be ready to go later this summer, and we'll hopefully get on something out of the UK in the next year at least.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Mel? Because I'm conscious of the fact she's got to.
Just put it this way, I could talk all night to Mel. Space Cornwall, of course, isn't just a place for launching satellites horizontally, but it's also a space hub stroke teach us a STEM place to teach children and educate them. I understand that the hub is basically oversubscribed. That's for companies to come in and to work in that local area. Is there any room for expansion there?
Yes, it's massive, the site itself. The two buildings I was just talking about earlier, the new one we've just opened, I think we have one office left and one lab left. So we have two spaces still left in that. The whole vision behind it is almost a conveyor belt where companies can come and they'll grow in that space, and then we'll move them on either to a purpose-built facility or to a larger one, or share with Goonhilly as well. Goonhilly has quite, some room down there, and just it's about that diversification and almost that more sustainable business model that looks at not just launch, which is really exciting, and it gets all the interest in media and everybody all excited. But use that to kind of galvanize and to attract other businesses to the site, who are pretty much the bread and butter of what we do. They pay the bills, they keep the site going, and really grow that cluster for local companies as well as companies moving into Cornwall too. So we're really, really excited about that. And you hear all these negative stories, like because Virgin Orbit are in Chapter 11, that means the spaceport's dead as well. Well, it's honestly busier than I've seen it up there on the site, because we have all these other businesses. We've had 4,000 school children in a couple months on site. It's noisy.
I can understand. But also you've been in talks, I understand, with Sierra and the Dream Chaser. Any news on that?
So we've been working with them for quite a number of years now, and we've watched them develop and kind of just go, stratospheric in the last year especially. We tend to go and see them in Denver every year around Space Symposium time. So we were just over there, and since we were there the year before, they've hired 1,000 people. Wow. That's the speed that they are just growing. So Dream Chaser, yes, of course, the transport side of it, but also the orbital reef project that they're working on. And for us, that whole, that all the Sierra Space kind of relationship development we're working on is to be a landing site for Dream Chaser. And the beauty of that is the missions that are on board, how we're processing them on the ground, maybe even taking part in some of those missions, the experiments, the humans, whatever it might be. And so we're beyond kind of the concept of operations now. We're working towards more of a feasibility study of how we, we handle the Dream Chaser landing on the site. But we've got the right facilities. We've thought of them the whole way through as we've been designing and building the facilities. Make sure that they weren't just bespoke to Virgin Orbit, but also to other space companies in the future, so they can use them as well.
Fantastic. Michael, I think you wanted to say something.
Yeah, a lot of our viewers are members of astronomical societies and related societies. I was wondering whether there's any scope for trips down to Newquay and maybe Goonhilly for societies to come and see what's going on, come by coach and whatever, and meet up with talk to people at Spaceport Cornwall and that in the future.
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of interested kind of group tours. They're quite ad hoc, so it's more just approaching us, coming up with the time with the team, and usually Goonhilly are more than happy to do the same. So we don't have anything that you'd find probably online that says click here and book your tour. It's more just reaching out and just saying, hey, we're really interested, and giving us a few options for dates. And we the whole ethos behind our spaceport is it's open, transparent, accessible. It's for the community to come and see what we're all about. So it's important to us that we stand by that, and that by especially people that have an interest in space to come and see it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, Mel, I gather that you are moving on from your current position.
Yeah.
No, listen. I'm sure we've all been in that professional situation where we've done what we can, and we think, oh, I fancy a change. It's time to move. So I think we all know that. I don't think we need to go into your reasons, but obviously we'd like to firstly congratulate you on everything that you've done for Spaceport Cornwall, and we think you've done a fantastic job. We've all been, well, of course, we're British, we follow it, and American, we follow it avidly. What's been going on, and we were obviously, while we were very disappointed with the Virgin Orbit failure, as you said, it's not the end. It doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things. But obviously, then we'd like to wish you all the best in whatever you do in the future, and we're sure you'll be an equal success at that. So,
thank you. Yeah, it's been a tricky decision.
I'm sure.
But it was one I pretty much made even before the launch. I knew that was going to be kind of the height of what I wanted to do. I reached everything, in this. I've been doing it really for 10 years. So for me, it was okay. And launch is a tricky thing to be part of. It's so incredibly exciting. Of course it is, but it takes a lot, and it basically takes over your whole life and your family's life. With launch windows moving and all the challenges. So for me, it's okay. I think it's the right time. And you see all the kind of negative comments about jumping ship, and it's for me to jump ship, it would mean the ship is sinking, and it's not sinking at all. So
I couldn't actually believe it when I saw the press release.
Well, what they're like. Nothing travels faster than bad news. I mean, it's just bad news sells, unfortunately.
Yeah, and for us, we've always just kept our heads down and delivered, rather than get stuck into the chat. And so, I mean, the team are amazing, and it's a new chapter for the spaceport as well. It is just the beginning of it all. I'm so proud that I was part of it. I'm proud of what we achieved. But I'm excited. I'm going to stay in the space industry and hopefully hear a little bit more about that. It's totally different, but that's what I love, is a new challenge and learning more and getting stuck into something that is exciting in a new way. So you'll see me still popping up from time to time.
We'd love you to come back in the future, and love you to come back here in the future.
Oh yeah, it'll be much. Definitely. Sign me up.
Can I just mention one of your young ladies at Spaceport Cornwall, Lauren? Yes. She's been in the news a lot lately as well. And just like to wish her all the best for the future, because I actually met her at Farnborough last year.
Yeah.
That was good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so proud of my team, and they're so passionate about what we do and how we do it. And it's been such an honor and joy to work with them. We're quite a close family, so that's the real hard side of it, is that. But it's Cornwall, it's small, so we'll still bump into each other.
That's right. Astro Nebula says, I loved it so much I bought the t-shirt. There you are. You can't get a better recommendation than that, really, can you?
Thank you.
And I know Newquay is near the north coast, but how do you decide which beaches to go to, north or south?
Yeah, it depends on
Southern
what.
beaches are better.
Well, it depends what you want to do. My family are all into surfing, so we live on the north coast for that. So my husband picked our daughter up from school today, and they went straight into the sea up, and she caught 8 waves. She said and she's
wow.
8. I mean, what a life that is for an 8-year-old. So we're a north coast family, but I love the south coast as well. It's a bit calmer.
I've spent many family holidays on the Lizard when I was young.
I've been to the Lizard.
We always used to go to Goonhilly every year and go around it. And so I grew up with Goonhilly, and before it was even British Telecom, I was there, and it's always very dear to my heart, that whole area. All right. Well, thank you so much, Melissa. All the best for the future. Thank you for spending your time with us this evening. We'll let you go now and look after your family. And,
running wild.
If you've got nothing at all to do on any Monday night, if you've got nothing better to do, you're always welcome to drop in here. We've got the link, so you can drop in any time.
Amazing.
If you've got anything you want to talk to us about, then do drop in. We say this to all our guests. You're always welcome. So,
thank you. And thank you for all the kind comments and words. They really do mean a lot to me, so I appreciate that.
No, they're well earned. They're well earned.
Everybody's been behind you and the spaceport so much. And,
thank you.
Definitely.
We've never heard anything negative in any way about it. We're all rooting for it, and we want it so much to be a success. Yeah. So if we could do it by the power of thought alone, it would work. But,
okay. Great.
All right, then we'll let you go. Thank you so much, Mel. And,
thank
hope
you.
to see you again soon. And very best of luck in whatever you choose to do.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.